Yes, people, it's me, the one like Judi Love, and welcome to our table. We'll be having some great conversations and celebrating the excellence of creatives. It's time for us to sit at the table together, enjoying great food and great conversation. So whether you're a seasoned pro or an aspiring new artist, you're welcome to our table. It's so nice being here with you guys, and I know I'm excited about the conversation, but I'm also excited about the food.
Yes.
Because what have we got going on today?
So I've come with the bami waffles.
Oh, wow.
So taken bami, which is typically eaten with fish back in Jamaica. Bami is like cassava based, so I've taken cassava, mixed that through a typical waffle recipe.
Nice.
That's going with some fried chicken, so that Caribbean fried chicken. But I've made a like a buffalo sauce with some rum, some hot sauce. I've got my hot sauce in there. It's got some maple syrup in there, and then I've got a bit of kimchi. I've got a bit of chocho. Wow. So you got vibes on vibes going on here.
I love a chocho, you know.
Do
you ever eat chocho? Do you not know what chocho is?
I've heard of it, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's
chocho's like the little green vegetable pear, some people call it, or Christophine.
Yeah. Do you eat it raw? Because I
eat it raw in salads now. Yeah. Yes. But growing up, my mum used to put it in soup. It's not too much of a vibe in soup because it's a little bit kind of watery and it's a bit like cooking cucumber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, why are we doing that?
But I remember my mum used to go, chocho, good for you. Eat the chocho.
Yes.
The chocho. And I'm like, I want someone to eat the chocho. Anyway,
so it's kind of staying on that vibe of kind of bringing Caribbean food to a fun, to a kind of younger audience, a bit more Instagrammable, but still those bold flavors that we know and love.
I feel like our food is definitely coming out there much more. And when we talk about international, you're both here from America.
Yes.
You know, obviously this is not your first time. You've lived here.
It's not my first time.
And it's not your last time.
No.
What does it feel like to be back?
Go to her first. This food is good. I'm here.
You know what I mean? What does feel like y'all knew like the American was coming because I was like, oh, chicken and waffles. I'm very over chicken and waffles in America, and I'm just like, I get it. But you have to understand like the essence of chicken and waffles. Like this is poor people food. It's just like, listen, we got chicken and the Eggos. Like this was never like it was never anything fancy, and it was like something people just. It was like a restaurant, like they just threw it together.
It's crazy because there is a lot of our food that comes from that. You know,
Absolutely.
We had a lot of tail and a lot of foot.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It was an oxtail,
Cold foot,
foot,
cold tongue,
and you went,
aisle pan. When you said eat the aisle pan, it's good for your
eyes. You know what I'm
eyes.
saying? All of that food comes from unfortunate situations, you know, and colonization and slavery and poverty, and somehow we made it taste so good.
I mean, like oxtail now, like you can buy oxtail again.
Let me tell you something. I went to my local butcher's, and I asked for oxtail. Actually, it wasn't even oxtail. I went to go and buy lamb neck. Right, and this butcher's was very much like lamb neck. I was like, yeah, it's Saturday. I want to make a soup, and they went round the back and brought out the lamb neck, and it wasn't even chopped up. It was just seen as the food. It was seen as the food that you cast away. So they were saying to me, lamb neck, and I was like, yes, the lamb's neck. Bring out the thing. So then he brought it out, and then he said, I said, can you chop it up? And he chopped it up for me, and it was like £37. Yeah, I was shocked, and I've bought oxtail before, and it come up to like 80 quid. Because it's true.
It's expensive in America now too.
Really?
Chicken wings used to be like my mother said growing up. Chicken wings were something that people threw away.
Yeah.
You didn't eat chicken wings, and then some bar owner was like, "We gotta sell this beer. We can't afford the rest of the chicken, so give us the ones they throw away." So that's how chicken wings got popular in America because it's bar food.
But it makes me think about a lot of the stuff from our culture that we've seen come from the struggle, how it's kind of added into our, creativity. What would you say are some of the things that you'd seen that has been a struggle in your life that actually propelled you into being creative?
So whilst I didn't come up poor, there was a lot of tension in the household, there was a lot of violence in the household. My earliest memory is a brick coming through my bedroom window. I was like 4. And I can't say because people around me like to sue too much, but and I like my money where I can see it, but this man air conditioned the house proper.
Wow.
Back windows, front windows, and someone in the house owed this man a lot of money in relation to drugs. And I think that really just shaped my childhood, innit? And I'm not, if I could relive it, I wouldn't erase it.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Mo the other day, Mo Gilligan, and I said to him, sometimes I just want to go in my daughter's room and fling up the mattress. Just mash up the place. Because I'm like, you don't have no destabilization. And my inner child struggles with that. I can get very jealous of my own children. And I'm big enough and I've done enough work to admit that. Because I'm like, well, you don't know a helicopter coming over this house, no? You don't know flushing things down the toilet. You don't know stress. What do you mean you're telling me, oh, I didn't have £5 for Red Nose Day? I was probably... Loads. We didn't have £5 for the electric meter. So it's me trying to bridge that gap, hold space for that little girl who grew up around so much violence, but also respect who she's made me become. But all of that, so with that aside, I also had one of the most blessed upbringings. I was raised by my maternal granddad. His left eye was kicked out a few months before I was born. He was mugged really violently and he was deemed as unfit for work. So he became a stay-at-home husband. And my nan went out to pay the bills. And I was raised in their house till I was like 11. And it was just me and my granddad until this very day who look you bare in your face and be like, yes, Candice is my favourite. And what about it? He don't business. And in front of the other grandkids, he's like, I'm sorry. She's the first, she has my heart. And he was just really strict on me communicating well and reading well. And it's not till I was in my mid-20s that we found out he's severely dyslexic. So there's this man really trying to get me to orate and write well. He don't know what I'm writing.
But he didn't want you to face maybe this situation.
The discrimination
that he had faced.
You know?
I really connect you with regards to the children's situation. I've got a 9-year-old and 15-year-old. And obviously life for me has changed only over the last 4 years, being able to buy a home and stuff like that. You know, my daughter's passed her driving test and I watch her come in just free, just mind, just free. Oh, I got work, I got this. And there is moments where I'm like, watch her. You know that line of views in the house, that hotel. Yeah. And then I think to myself, at 19, you know, I was living by myself. I was still caring for my mum. I was a carer for my mum when I was 9. And then I have to sit in it and be like, but this is what you want. And furthermore, this is what my mum would have wanted for her grandchildren. And you definitely make me think a lot about this word within the community, especially for black women, this kind of either struggle love or being, you know, super powerful or just surviving and actually it's okay to let it go. I do feel like it's helped within my career because the adversities have made me who I am, but it's getting to that stage of letting go in it so that you can actually live
and
like,
thrive.
You know, just live and
enjoy
soft life.
But I will credit, and I don't like, you know I love him down, but I don't like to give my husband too much credit.
What do you mean?
No. I'll tell you what I mean by that, because I think sometimes socially we run away with that because it's like we give all the credit to the man and I'm like, okay, cool your boots, man. Do you know what I mean? But him being Nigerian, he put me in my soft life bag. I said, wow,
really?
This is how I should be. Yeah. There was so much trauma and baggage.
That was the ancestors.
That was every man going, respect me. We did it. Ungrateful woman.
No, but there was so much trauma and baggage I brought to the relationship where he was like, do you know what? I'm going to wait for you to come round.
And wait for you still being your partner?
Yeah, still being, and I'm like, looking back, I'm like, right, you really went through some sufferation with me, innit? Because I had a lot to clear up and work through.
What's your cultural background?
Bajan, maternal, Jamaican, paternal, so Caribbean. I had so much to work through in terms of value, self-love, being a dark-skinned black woman in British society.
Colorism
Because you know you need to fill up this wine again. Like, listen, bring it round. Do you get what? Having to deal with all of that and how we're socialized to look at a woman like me or value a woman like me, it took time. And I respect him greatly for it. And I respect myself for taking time with myself to be like, no, you're really the in thing. And now to be able to give that message to other black women, because you know I don't play about black women.
Yeah, I'd say, I met someone the other day and they were going through something really challenging and they said to me, like, Candice is someone that's made me get through this particular stage and actually sitting in the comfortableness of actually, luxury is good, or I can have that soft life, and it's okay, and not feeling guilty. I don't know if for you, obviously, being able to have this amazing career across the waters and leaving London, I don't know if there's ever been a feeling of like you've neglected, you've left behind, it's behind you, or a struggle that you've left behind to get to where you are.
Yeah. Well, I first want to say, like, salute to this first generation of Black British wealth like this, right? So many, Black wealth. You guys have been going for like so long. and there's proper context now. Let me.
I will toast to the Black wealth in Britain.
Yes.
I will toast to that because you have to understand something about being a Black American. Michelle told me last night that there's no like rich Black neighborhood, and you have to understand. I grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So,
it's a completely different thing.
I'm a different kind of menace.
Menace is your word, isn't it?
Listen, because it's a campaign. Because you have to understand. So the city that I grew up in, mind you, there's been a Black mayor of Atlanta since the 70s. White people live in Atlanta. That means that white people are voting for a Black mayor, first of all. Second, there are 4 historically Black colleges in the city, right? There are multiple rich Black neighborhoods in Atlanta. So when I was growing up, I grew up with Black mayors. I grew up seeing Black doctors. I grew up seeing Black sheriffs. I grew up with Black politicians. I grew up with corrupt Black politicians. Do you know how long you have to have Black politicians before you can have corrupt Black politicians? Do you know how long you have to have them before they can do dirt? You understand? And so because Black people have built, we've been there since 1619. So we've been there since the beginning. And so when we think of the idea of Blackness here compared to Blackness in America. And so now, because when we came over, we were like, oh, because we kept getting told in America, Black British people don't fuck with us. Black British, and I was just like, I don't know why we don't know y'all.
That's an absolute fallacy.
And
What's really important.
I know it's a fallacy.
There's 40 million Black Americans, 40 to 50 million. And there's 3 million
Black.
Exactly.
And so a country of 60 million, right? So, and
I don't know.
And for us guys, like, just so you know, and I think I speak for the table, but I speak for myself, like, Black Americans, whether it be the civil rights, whether it be hip hop, they've been a pillar of inspiration in many respects, right? It's an absolute fallacy, like, kind of probably perpetuated by people that would be
the
internet would
want
to be advantageous for us not being in a
once we
particular
got
position.
here, once we got here, and so like on Monday or Tuesday, I went to BBC London to do just promote the show, and me and Jay Whitaker, he opens for me, Black man, and we were walking out of the radio station. A Black lady just stopped us, and she's like, "I'm so glad to see Black people. Enjoy your day." And I was like, "Oh, we got lied to." Because it was intended to be divisive when it didn't need to be. But as Black people, but as Black American people on the internet and Black British people on the internet, telling each other that we don't support each other.
And it's that internet echo chamber anyway, right?
Right.
And it's not just limited to Black people.
Right,
it's everything.
But I don't
15 years ago
understand.
when I moved to the States, the concept of a Black British person was very minuscule. You know what I mean? There was, they think there'd be the odd mixed race person. Obviously, Idris Elba had a moment, so they're like, oh, Idris Elba. But then
When we found out he was British, he broke everybody's brain. When he used his real voice one day, we're like, you sneak. How dare he sound like that on a regular basis? Tyler Perry lied to us.
But I think it's a really important thing, is like Black Brits, the diaspora, which is a big part of, I guess, my modus operandi with my life, is like connecting the diaspora. Like when I was just tasting your food, I was like, this is kind of like the diaspora piece of it, you know what I mean?
Familiarity.
And I love the fact that it's incorporating so many different versions of our experience as Black people in the UK. To your question, for me, thinking back, you was triggering my brain back to being young. I also didn't grow up poor, right? I came from a father that had a business in Hackney, ran something called the African Caribbean Development Foundation, would take young people around the world, and we were exposed to all cultures. So I spent time in Ghana, Zimbabwe, would take, as a kid, and then I went to stage school from 6 till 16. However, thinking about the struggle elements, one of my particular triggers was we had money, right, which happens to a lot of Black people around the world. We have money, then we don't know what to do with money, therefore we lose money. And so that happened to my particular family, where I grew up for the first 12 years, well, 2 years in Hackney, and then the 10 years of like perceived wealth in a private school, and then back to the estates, back to like, you know, struggling. And so that feeling, like by the time I'm 16, 17, I'm like, not only do I need to make it, I need to know how to like sustain it and educate myself fiscally and financially on how to have longevity with wealth, you know what I mean? So that was, what was you gonna say, Don?
No, a Jamaican auntie once said, many men can acquire, few can maintain.
Maintain, yeah.
And that has always stuck
It's
with
a very
me. It's
true
like,
thing.
it's actually easy to acquire. It's the maintenance mode.
But they say that like the lottery, right? You know,
Yeah.
people win the lottery
And
and
then
they lose
boom.
it
very quickly
because they don't have the fiscal education on
And
how
the
to
maintenance
maintain.
mode, especially for Black Brits, because so few of us have access to certain space, it's difficult. Or you have that guilt of showing up for family members who don't want to learn how to fish.
And as well, I think that, you know, historically there is, you know, there was a stage, I'd say maybe 50s, 70s, where becoming earlier than that, where as a successful Black or a Black who was accepted would look a certain way. And that's where we fell into this pattern of show all that you're supposed to have. You know what I mean? How you wear, what you wear, the name. And that has just manifested throughout the years. That it's got bigger, the designers, the name brands are walking around. Don't get me wrong, some of the stuff is nice. But you know, some of us are walking around with that, and that's the
Having to
only
live into an
thing.
idea.
Yeah,
Do you know, I'm in an interesting space of that because I grew up with that mentality going, live beneath your means, live beneath your means, that kind of panic, that original scar of I can lose it all. And then, so I've lived like way beneath I've been making good money since I was like 18, like kid out of the bill, and then going to America by 23, I'm making money that, you know, I as a 23-year-old would dream of. But I'd go, live beneath your means. And then so I think if anything I want to, and it just depends what stage of your life you're at, but I do think there is the right amount of oscillation between both, because I think it is within our culture, in our history, in the archives of who we are, to be fly and to be adorned and to be drawn to success and wealth, and we're sun people, we shine, right? But also there's a thing about having longevity, and I think that I was the other way. I went the other way because I saw like uncles and all that do the flyboy thing but not really have the money thing. For me it was more like, yo, I want to make sure, and it's, you know, it's saving and investing is just the beginning parts of it, you know what I mean? So I think for me, that's one of the triggers I had as a young man that made me go, okay, how do I have longevity? And longevity is like one of the most important things in this game. I think we're all artists here. It's like you can have a flash in the pan moment, but how do you sustain over time? How do you grow older in your career or in your life with a degree of dignity? You know what I mean?
I think there's a level of like sacrifice. You know, I feel like I'm in a stage where I will always question how much of me, of my time and my sacrifice. And I know I sacrifice time because I might do a 12-hour shoot or might be away, but I always try to balance it out and trying to balance it with the kids, because I think my fear is 10 years, 20 years go past, and then your children like, yeah, when that issue that happened, you wasn't there. You know, there's always that worry, especially with being a single mum, and it makes me question, what else do I not realise, you know, that I might be sacrificing? I don't know if you feel like that since, you know, obviously getting to this stage.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, I grew up poor, and it's funny because it's about kind of, you know, you're from your perspective, because in many respects we were quite affluent. You know, my mum was very big on making sure we had the things that we need. So computers, we were the first to have like a Commodore, and you know, like, you know, but at the same time, I never had pocket money. Do you know what I mean?
Did you have a Game Boy? Did you have a Game Boy?
I did have a Game Boy.
That's why you didn't have money.
But you know, things like you couldn't run in and say the ice cream van's outside and that automatically means you're getting an ice cream. Do you know what I mean? You can be out there in shame while everybody else
Can
is
I ask
buying
a
ice
question?
cream.
Just to cut you for a second. I'd love to define poor. Like, not from your angle, just in general.
I
Just
think
like
what
as a
it
general
is,
thought.
you know, so like we were one of five, plus my mum had sent for my cousin in Jamaica, and we were living in a 3-bedroom house. So me and my 3 brothers shared one small bedroom with 2 bunk beds. And you know, it didn't feel restrictive. But when I then looked at other families that kind of had a semi-detached,
Or went to a school
do you know
friend's
what I
house.
mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
but
So it's kind of like, what is poor? You know, so I felt poor. But I've also got brethren who kind of like, you know, they talk about kind of the drug experience and doors getting kicked off. I didn't have that. I didn't see that. My mum was very big on education. She was very big on kind of speaking properly. So it's about perspective, you know. And my mum, I still see it. She operates from a place of lack. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
That as you said it,
just felt it.
You felt it.
I'm not messing up this makeup. And I felt that, you know, I did a dissertation when I did my master's about the emotional impact it has on the stereotype of the strong black woman. And that, working from a place of lack, working from a place of survival and struggle, is something that I really see in the community for the women that has to be broken. We kind of like put up, shut up, deal with, and it brings on abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, abuse to ourselves, because we just sit in this place of neglect, not from anybody else, but from ourselves neglected. And I think there's something definitely about your books and your work, which where you're touring the UK, but going to be touring in America. A lot of women, and not just black women, are really just feeling like they're being heard. Is that something that resonated with you a lot?
Yeah, so I've spoken about in the first book, my mum had really bad mental health, and I remember when I was about 13, 14, she was admitted to Maudsley, which is a mental, I don't know if institution is the right word, in South London, and so I took on a lot of responsibility. There were multiple suicide attempts, and at some point, really early on, I think I was about 17, you have to make a decision that this won't be your life.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? 100%. You have to be like, I don't know how. And to this day, I don't know how. And I think people look at my life and think, I'm in the plan, okay? I just know what I want. I don't know how I'm getting there. I know what I want, and I know I'm getting it.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Don't speak to me about that. The how is not my business. But I looked at the scope of my life when I was about 17, and I was like, rah. We're living on Summerleyton Estate. Things always feel tight. Mental health, drugs, da-da-da-da-da. This can't be how it ends. And I tell you what, I turned 37 last week. And my son's born on the same day. So I had him when I was 30. And it was really interesting waking up, turning 37, and thinking back to watching my parents turn 37 and how different my lived experience is, just because I demand it should be different. This isn't to say that I haven't faced hardships, but there's some discussions as a black woman I won't even entertain. So you know when you said operating from lack, I operate from too much abundance. I'm like, yeah, order that, get that. Yeah. More. And everyone's like, are you okay? I'm like, you have to live it. You have to
Fight
feel
against
it.
it.
You have to.
Yeah.
And I do think that watching, you know, my nan go out and pay the bills and do all of them things, I'm just like, no, at some point, me living in abundance is showing gratitude for all the hard work those women
We
do.
stand on generational, especially from the Windrush era. You know,
Yes.
1940s, we're coming over here. Oh, by the way, already fly.
Already fly.
Already educated. Already knowing what we want. But then the struggles we've had to endure. You know, fighting against not only institutional racism and literal racism, the disenfranchisement, the breaking of the black man and black woman in our relational space. Because a lot of people don't remember the fact that we came over, black men came over here in our flocks without our women. You know, after World War II. You understand? So,
the thing is as well, it's about as well the constant, you know, the constant pushing us to remind us of trauma. And this is my new thing.
Even if we're not reminded, it's in us at all points in time.
But I feel like sometimes, you know, people want us to sell our trauma. You know, the trauma porn is so out there. Anything that's bad, and it's like I've been in spaces where I'm like, no, I'm not willing to discuss that, or no, I don't need to talk about me seeing my mum die. You've heard me talk about it before. My trauma is not for sale, and that's why in space like this, it's important to celebrate other women, other men, other people like you coming over, and you messaged me. I was like, I'm coming to see you, sis. Remember I met you before. I want you on the show because it's showing somebody else's perspective, and it's about us showing, okay, us sitting together. Yes, we're talking about emotional, deep stuff, but we're good, and we're laughing, and we're healing, and that's why your film that you've just done, Chasing the Night, is so significant because it's about love, and it's about Black love that we don't see as much on screen, and it's about actually, you know. I don't want to give it away in case people's going to watch it.
That's the hardest thing about talking about it.
Yeah,
Like, if you tell there's so many, like,
yourself.
people be asking me, like, what's the film about? I'm like, if I tell you, it'll ruin everything.
Don't tell us,
Like,
but why? What was it? Why did you get to a stage where you was like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to say?
we, like everyone else on this world, knows what love is. We know what love is. We've experienced it. We've seen it. We've observed it. Like, I want to tell those stories that are things that I can relate to, that I can connect to. I tell people I grew up, you know, I can name so many films. Let's say Home Alone, one of my favorite films ever. I don't care that there's no Black people in that. I still loved it.
Yeah.
Why can't it be the other way around?
Yes.
Like, I can relate to that experience of being a young kid. Oh my God, I'm home alone. It's the best thing ever. And obviously, no one broke into my house and did that stuff. But it's so important to just show us in all of our shades. Like I always say that, you know, when people talk about certain other types of films or stories, I'm like, the language is wrong here. It's not that we shouldn't have those films, it's that we need everything. We need all of the rainbow. We need all of the shades of our existences, of our stories. And there is a part of our stories, like those characters who are just living good. Like they're both, for all intents and purposes, you could define them as middle-class Black Londoners.
Yes.
They exist. We are real. Like
we are here. Obviously born in America, I suppose I would assume that you saw a lot of films and movies that you felt like you saw yourself.
Well, it depended on like the era. So like when you look at like the late, not like the 90s. So you had like the 70s, very pro-Black, very all of the Blaxploitation, all of this, and then the 80s it kicked back.
Really?
And then like the 80s it was very white. Very white. You could tell by the makeup they was putting on us. We
Oh
was like,
shoot! So,
everybody's makeup was wrong color and the blush was looking nuts. And then the 90s came and it was very, and we've got, again, very pro-Black, then hip hop's everywhere. And then the 2000s came and then it shifted again. And then, so we had these moments where like we're visible and then we disappear. We're visible and then we disappear. And then, because there was like there was a network called UPN, which was a United Paramount network, but it had like most of the Black TV shows, so they called it the Underpaid Negroes Network. Okay. Because they weren't making the money of the other networks. And so you had shows like, you know, Girlfriends and stuff like that. And then when you had Living Single, which was and so Friends was a
Copy of it.
copy of that. And so we're given this specific thing. But when it comes to like image and stuff like that, it's in talking about who you are and always existing as how you are and just giving yourself the ability. Like there's so many times that so I stay on stage, it's like, you know, I talk about like, I have a joke where I say, you know, I'm 41. I know you can't tell because of the melanin and the obesity. And they did a review here, right? And then the room always drops. And I'm like, oh, okay, look here, white lady. I don't need you coming up to me after the show trying to make me feel better. Like, oh my God. You're not fat. You're beautiful.
That's great delivery.
Right? And then my response is, bitch, I'm both. They're not mutually exclusive. We've all seen ugly, skinny people. Stop fucking with me. And so and I made the mistake of reading some of the reviews, and one woman, she wrote, and I've read reviews before where if I talk about that, if a white woman reviews it, then it's like, well, she talks about, like I had one in Canada and she's like, well, she talks about her struggles with her weight. And I called my manager and I said, make her take that out of that article. And they took it out because what you're not going to do. And so the same thing happened here. It's like, you know, she's talking about like, you know, different kind of, you know, taboo things about, you know, her saying that she's obese. Bitch, if you pull up the chart that was invented by white people, that makes no sense because Shaquille O'Neal, right, at his most fit in the NBA, would have been considered obese. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't take into account any type of body type. It was invented by insurance companies, not by doctors, right? And so for me to say that, yes, I am a plus size person, I'm a fat person, but that is an insult to you. I live in a body that people have an opinion of.
Yes.
And so everyone has to go, but I'm okay with this. But I didn't ask you.
I didn't ask you. I definitely understand.
I didn't ask you because body positivity is something that was invented for white women
Yeah.
because we had a different beauty
Standard.
standard.
I mean,
But if I look at, so when I would watch television and I would see Queen Latifah pulling every she was dealing with basketball players. You see what I'm saying? So I would see women that look like me doing well, but then there was the same thing but then it shifts where it's just like, well, now we're all existing. So now when we started pulling into more Black beauty standards and that becoming more of a standard, which is why women are getting surgery to look like us.
I connect exactly with what you're saying, because being a plus size, dark skinned woman on TV, you know, if it's not fat shaming, then it's like, oh my God, how are you so confident? Do you know what I mean?
Which is very confusing. People ask me that, and I was like, they're like, how are you so confident? I said, because there are so many reflective surfaces. And the reason that I'm confident is because I can see my own face, you goofy bitch. That's why. Also, it has always been, I've realized the reason that people are so jealous of dark-skinned women and dark-skinned people, because your skin is fucking perfect. I have never seen a dark-skinned woman with a pimple fight her in the street. Do you understand? But also you have to understand, colorism moves, right? Yeah. So in America, depending on the person that I'm talking to, I could be light-skinned, I could be dark-skinned, I could be red bone, I could be anything.
Is colorism as big as it is over here?
What you mean? What you mean?
From my point of view,
oh man, we came up with it.
I didn't know, like, being from London, our version of what a light-skinned person is totally different.
It's completely different.
She could be a light-skinned person, or even more, call you like a brown, black.
Here, now in America.
But in America, it's a different thing.
So when they would have those light-skinned, dark-skinned arguments.
It's about the paper brown test.
Yes, paper bag test. So depending on the time of year, either I could vote or I couldn't, right? Wow. And so, but when I'm in America, if we're having a light-skinned, dark-skinned conversation, I'm 6 p.m. So I'm square down the middle. So I'm just sitting there looking like, man, this is a problem in our community. Because I'm not light-skinned, but I'm not dark-skinned.
Isn't it? Don't you think it's crazy that still in 2025, like this is still going on? I'm questioning whether, did you purposely pick two beautiful dark-skinned actors to be in your movie?
Yes and no. When, in the process of coming up with the film and the idea, I rarely think about casting whilst I'm writing. But a few pages in, immediately I was like, I know who has to play this person. It has to be played by Shope Dirisu.
Oh, please.
That came to
Listen,
I saw that clip that was going around last night.
Have you seen this actor?
The young man who picked up.
Yep, that's the one.
Man.
Yep, Alison
Why
Hammond.
is he not here? It's nice to meet you. It's so great. Thank you for your
So I did a show with me and Alison Hammond, and Sope came in, and let me tell you, do you know what
He
the thing
picked
is?
up Alison and spun her around.
And I was like, is that what you did? And he was
And they
like,
were just
don't
talking
worry.
slick like you as well. Like
In
the
my
same way.
face and said, don't worry, there's more where that came
listen.
from. I said, look, but the thing is, he had us from when we was in makeup. He walked in makeup, and you know me, I'm quite outspoken. When he walked in, I went,
Judy, I've been hearing about the clip all week, but I only watched it last night, and I texted him. I was like, keep doing it. You're making it easy for me to make this feature my romantic lead.
I saw that, and I said, girl, tell him I'm going to be in London next week. I'm trying to see something. I'm trying to figure something out.
I'll show you. I'll show you.
Honestly,
It wasn't for you. It wasn't for you. It wasn't for
You didn't pick him, but it wasn't about.
It started
about you
in terms
knew.
of casting. I was like, this is who has to play this character. Like, I just saw it immediately, and then when it came to Deborah, and honestly, like, I'm very blessed that every single actor in that film was our first choice. Finding Deborah took so long because I was so specific about certain things I wanted. I was like, this is a romance, and if we talk about mainstream romantic stories that we've watched, predominantly white, let's be honest, part of the thing that sells it is the man then watch the film and they love the woman. The women watch the film and they love the man. I'm like, that has to be present here as well. Yeah. And so we've got that. There's obviously the need to be able to act and be a brilliant actor. Yeah. There's all these factors that I have going on in my head. The character had to look like they could be called Fatima because I was wedded to that name for a specific reason. And my casting director sending me options. And in the process of this, there are conversations happening with Film 4, with my producer, and I call my producer one day, I'm like, Abby, everyone keeps talking about this character being dark-skinned. I'm not saying that they're not, but I've never said that's a specific thing. And for context, Abby Olechi is tall, beautiful, dark-skinned woman. And so I say that to her. She goes, no, the character's dark-skinned. I was like, I didn't say that. And I was like, I'm not against it, but like that. No, it has. And I always say to Abby,
She said it has to be.
no,
She felt it had to be.
She felt it had to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, she said everything she said appealing to me. And I stayed how I was feeling. I was like, I just want the best person for the role. And we found Deborah, who was entirely the best person. But when we then had them together, just before we're even shooting, I called Abby. I was like, Abs, I get it now. And it's not that I didn't understand when she said it, but even how I felt seeing it and knowing that this was the moment. But for me, it's that I always want to do the best thing for the film, for the story first. So, and then everything else is a bonus. I don't want to lead with, I don't want to call it box ticking, but doing something just for the sake
But there's a
of it.
responsibility. I feel. I did Boxing Day and
I love
a rom-com, and I knew very specifically and instructively to myself, this is gonna have to be a dark-skinned woman. I have 5 sisters, first of all, so I had that call before you had it, right? Right. And but beyond that, I think there's a responsibility to balance out what is perpetuated through cinema, because we live in the bias of the people that are funding the stuff, right? So this is a bias. It's a positive bias, but it's a bias.
And the thing as well is that if we don't think about it, then who will? Because as much as I want to be like, oh, it doesn't matter to me, because in some ways it didn't. I'm like, oh, but what I'm saying it doesn't matter because I would do it regardless. I'm like.
But the emotional pride women would feel in that.
Yeah, not even that part, that as well. But I'm saying that, it doesn't matter because I would do it regardless. But unfortunately, there's the other side who wouldn't do it and they intentionally wouldn't do it. And that's when you then realize the responsibility. Like, no. I have to do this because no one else is going to do it for us. And I know this is important.
And then there's women, I don't know if you've had it like myself and yourself maybe, who's had to face that. You know what, you're really nice for a dark-skinned girl. Like,
I don't get dark-skinned, I would just get, it would be from white people, it would be pretty for a black girl.
Right.
And then from other people, it would be pretty for a fat girl.
Oh yeah, I get it.
So that when I'm just like, of course, I'm the face of the chair.
But gall to say
but I was always confused by black people looking at another woman as going, oh, well, you know, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. And I've always wondered, because like when I think about colorism, I think about, because in America is the way, because I was talking to Michelle about this yesterday, the way that we think of blackness in America is different than here because we have the one-drop rule. Y'all don't have the one-drop rule here. So in America, if it's a single, that's why we have the term, it was in their antiquated terms now, but that's why we had mulatto, that's why we had quadroon, that's why we had octoroon. Like that's even an eighth white or an eighth black, right? Quadroon and octoroon, they were all references to how much blackness you had in you. And so it was like, and then like in Latin American culture, there was an idea of bettering the race. So you were trying to breed with white people for the betterment of that race. You see what I'm saying? And so when it comes to, so growing up and seeing, like in the 90s and seeing all of these black rom-coms. So you have your Love and Basketball and Love Jones and all of that. You would, if you saw a dark-skinned person in this relationship, the man was always dark.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
The man was always dark. But I want to understand what colorism is here as opposed to America, because colorism in America is always a reference to you being mixed with white.
Well, I think racism in America is very different. So I lived in South Carolina for a year and a half. Sorry, colorism and racism. Yeah. So you spoke about the one drop rule, and I think the difference is here it wasn't written into legislation in the way that it was in America. So it was almost kind of written into law. That story about kind of, you know, how you're seen as a mixed race person in both your black family and your white family, depending on what member of the family was black, so whether you had a black mother or a white mother, but still kind of, you know, the light skin, dark skin thing has always been prevalent in my experience growing up, you know, and even like, you know, how you're seen being, you know, with a white woman, being with a mixed race woman. And I'm very observant about how people kind of react to things, whether it's even just a micro expression. And I even see it and feel it in myself.
We went to church.
But see, but you have to understand the difference. Is like, so my mother's light skinned, but both of her parents are black. So in America, because so many of us are mixed with white in various levels, you don't know when because like my grandmother was so I have grandparents that are my complexion, your complexion. My mother's yellow, right? And so the thing is in America, you can even, she is, and she knows she is. She knows she's high yellow, So high yellow. Yes, it's yellow. It's high yellow. I was a red bone for a couple summers, but your melanin shifts. And so in America, you can have black parents and be light skinned. And so there's this different thing. But what I'm saying is it's the difference of when you have black parents and you're light skinned, as opposed to having mixed race parents and being light skinned. People are treated different.
The colorism I think would run here, to sum it up, is just the favoritism over if you're light.
America's like that too.
Pretty if you're light. You might be acceptable if you're light. You might even be the light-skinned child in a family with predominant dark people. And the parents will prefer the light-skinned child. Or you hear kids say, I want to date a lighty. Like, those are the things that is the same kind of colorism that we're having here, which we're fighting against, and we're having conversations like this.
But Judi, you know what's beautiful? So I want to kind of step back about what Dom was saying about it being perpetuated whilst we were younger, right? And I don't want to just speak about colorism, but I want to think of things like fat phobia. I want to think about things like homophobia. The beauty that I see right now is that, unfortunately, we were all raised in it. It was prevalent. A lot of us participated in it. But what I'm seeing is so beautiful now is not just us, but people around us. We now know better, because you're talking about what the aunts and the uncles would say. Me and my brethren, none of us, men and women, would dare say anything like that or put it on. My goddaughter's 4 years old. No one could ever. Right? You can't say these things. And it's beautiful that we now, all of us know it. Not everyone in general, but at least how we are operating. And hopefully we can only pray that with them it then dies out, because they're not having that.
For me, it's beautiful to sit here at a table, comedian, an author, a chef, a film director, an actor, a director, comedian, and for us to be able to have these conversations that are complex, sometimes hurtful, but joyful and educational and reflective, so us to move on. And that's why it's important for us to have things like this where we can be at our table. So let's go. Yeah.
I won't raise my mental, it's bad luck. Cheers.
So thank you. You better cheers. Pour him some juice, babe.